The leader of an influential Hindu group has come out to back LGBTQ rights in India. Mohan Bhagwat's support could sway the government's opposition to gay marriage. The Supreme Court is hearing petitions from same-sex couples on expanding their rights. Parts of society are opposed. They see it as a violation of Indian culture.
Uday and Parth's love story is like any other. They met at school, fell in love, and built their life together in Delhi over 17 years. But as a gay couple in India, their relationship was considered a crime until the Supreme Court decriminalized homosexuality in 2018. Despite this landmark judgment, their relationship still has no legal recognition.
The right to marriage would significantly improve our lives. It would significantly help our lives as a couple. But we certainly see that it creates a conversation in the minds of people around us and would create a confidence in the minds of other young gay people.
Without legal recognition of their relationship, they cannot do ordinary tasks that most heterosexual couples take for granted, such as opening a joint bank account or making medical decisions for each other. Uday and Parth are one of the 4 gay couples who have filed petitions asking the Supreme Court to recognize same-sex marriages. So far, the governing BJP has not given an official stance on legalizing same-sex marriages. But more than a few members of the ruling party openly oppose any change in the law. Activists hope that the court will force India to follow the example of countries where such marriages are legal. Malvika Rajkotia specializes in family law and says that barring the LGBTQ community from marriage violates their right to equality.
Right to marry is a fundamental right. And if the present structure of the marriage does not recognize same-sex marriage, then it violates the Constitution.
But Malvika's view is not shared by more conservative elements of Indian society. On the outskirts of Delhi, the right-wing Hindu organization Hindu Raksha Dal is getting ready for protests if this law gets passed. Today, they are meeting to discuss strategies to oppose same-sex marriage. They say it's not part of the Hindu culture.
Our organization raided hotels where we found same-sex couples making love. We stopped them and got them arrested. Why should we encourage something that is not part of our culture? We investigated the matters and sent these couples behind bars.
Despite the challenges their community faces, Uday and Parth remain optimistic. They say the petitions have brought the issue into focus in a country where LGBTQ identity is still largely a taboo.
Let's talk now to lawyer Niharika Karanjawala. She's part of the team of lawyers fighting for same-sex marriage and represents the couple in our report. First of all, what goes through your mind when you hear about reports like those groups raiding hotels and putting same-sex couples behind bars for having sex?
You know, Ben, the first thing that strikes me is that's illegal. On what basis are you raiding these hotels? There is a Supreme Court sanctified right to privacy in this country, and there has been a decriminalization of homosexuality. So if anyone is raiding hotels and getting people arrested for what they are doing privately, then frankly, that is against the law. And I think investigations ought to be made into people who are openly flouting that they are violating the laws, and the police that seem to be allowing this. How are they sending people to jail for this?
At the same time, there seems to be progress on one front. The leader of that Hindu nationalist organisation, Mohan Bhagwat, recently coming out in support of the gay and transgender community. How important is that for this fight for same-sex marriage in India?
So, you know, I think that's extremely important. And I felt that Mr. Bhagwat's statement had a slight tone of maybe a segregationist air, because he was saying, I think they should have their own private places, which was sounding a little bit like, okay, do whatever you want, just don't do it over here, which is not not what we're fighting for. We're fighting for
Exactly.
true equality. However, it was wonderful to hear him acknowledge that in many instances in Indian culture and Indian history and Indian mythology, there have been people of the LGBTQ community. And it was great to have a leader of such an important right-wing group acknowledge that. It's something that we've been saying for a long time.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has in the past refused to legalise same-sex marriage. What do you expect will be the government's reaction to the case?
So while we are still awaiting a reply in the Supreme Court, we have similar matters that have been filed in the High Court, and the Union of India at that time opposed. We anticipate that they will oppose here as well. However, we have full faith in the judiciary and full faith in the Supreme Court to decide this issue. We believe it's an issue of fundamental rights and constitutional rights. And we have full faith in the judiciary in this regard.
But at the end of the day, whether or not the Supreme Court does hand down a ruling, a lot of this comes down to acceptance within society, doesn't it?
That is a big factor, Ben. And in fact, one thing we have brought up time and again is despite a previous judgment and a previous direction by Justice Ravindran Nariman saying that the government ought to take steps to better include and integrate members of the LGBTQ community into Indian society, no such real steps have been undertaken, at least in our understanding. And we feel that, to expand your question slightly, I believe that the vast majority of Indian society is tolerant. They're open to progressive ideas. And the factions that oppose ideas of this sort and oppose giving people even basic rights and bringing it to an issue of equality, I believe that that's done through a lack of awareness. So I really believe if more depthful awareness programs are taken on and you show people who maybe don't have friends or family members in the LGBT community and have not been exposed to it in their day-to-day life, and you show people. These people are just like you and me. They're just like you and me. They're entitled to their rights. They're just trying to live their lives privately with their families. I think it would go a great way towards moving society forward on this progressive path. And I think in many instances, it is the courts that lead us down these progressive paths.
Yeah, it's the framework, the legal framework that we need and the state
Absolutely.
should be setting up, exactly.